Alright, so I just left the hotel and after the wedding, and I am so sore, my legs are destroyed, but I'm gonna start heading north now. Well, I've been driving for about an hour and a half since I left LA, and there's a couple things I needed to do, so I was gonna stop to check my phone and stuff, but also wanted to get out and just take some photos. It is just nothing out here. It's crazy to be in the middle of this desert that's just nothing, and goodness, it is supposed to be so different. Because like LA was really like humid, like it is already changing. Wow. So that photo that I just took, I was taking the reading on it, and I have Portrait 400 in the camera, so that was rated at f25. This takes the Sunny 16 to the next level. This is one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen, just to be here, just absolutely nothing in the middle of this desert. It also kind of feels like almost Lord of the Ringsy with just those giant mountains over there, and then more to that side. It really makes me respect like pre-air-conditioned car travel through here. It's insane. Well, I made it to the Death Valley floor, which is kind of crazy. This is an insanely beautiful place, and I don't think I'm going to go all the way to the low point, because that's a lot more driving to get where I'm going to camp tonight, but I'm just in the middle of nowhere, and there's no one else, and it's kind of mind-blowing. So I get a lot of stick from people for wearing jeans all the time, even when it's hot, because I don't know, I just really prefer them. But it's hot enough that I actually put on shorts, but also don't stand barefoot on the pavement in 115-degree weather, because that hurts. I think one of the most remarkable things about this place is just how quiet it is. There's a little bit of wind, but especially when I was on the valley floor, it was just dead quiet. Just something you don't hear very often. It's cool. I'm getting kind of close to Alvord Hills, which is where I'm trying to go for the night. This light is so good. It's one of those tough. I always hate this when I'm trying to make awesome photos, or like when you see cool things where you are, and you also know where you're going is cool. You're like, how do you balance the two? up for sunrise, and I thought I'd start off the day in this iconic spot here. Alright, so let's talk about the Mamiya 6, which is my favorite camera right now. Yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Like, hands down, this is my favorite camera. I mean, I think there's something just about the way that I hold it. It just fits. It just feels so nice in my hand. Like, it's actually a really small grip, like way smaller. Like, to hold it with, like, you know, with just like your fingers, it's actually way harder with this camera than it is with like the Mark IV, which is what's videotaping in this or something. But it's just enough. The plastic body like is weird, but it's also, it's so smooth and so pretty. Yeah, I love the square format. I used to have the old school Mamiya 6, the foldy one, which this is also foldy, but not in the same way. But had to upgrade to this one, and it just is beautiful. It just fits my hand. It's so easy to use. The rangefinder is absolutely massive. Like, it's so easy to see everything, to see the whole frame. It's really easy to see what's outside of the frame that I'm taking. And actually, I really enjoy that there's all the frame lines inside of it too, because now that I have the panorama kit, I'm shooting 35 in it. It's also framed pretty well, so I can see what that will look like in the panorama format. So it's just really intelligently done. That also said, like, how awesome is that? That it's a camera that with a little tiny kit, it's this small, it's this light, and it shoots massive medium format files or panorama files. Like, this is like a poor man's X-Pan, which I've always wanted an X-Pan, but there's no way I'm gonna drop the $4,000 on it that it would cost for a camera that this does almost the same thing. It's not quite as wide, but it's really close. Like, if I had a Mamiya 7, you put that kit in it, it's probably basically the same thing. But it's a camera that I use, that I know, and it's nothing new. So that's all the stuff that I just love about it. I also love that it's a foldy camera, so it does come down to just a little bit smaller, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you're just shoving it into a bag or something, like, that little tiny bit of extra, like, not sticky outedness is such an enormous difference, because it really is the difference between being able to, like, my backpack has one of those side holes, so it's the difference between able to slide it in, or if it's open, you would really have to take the whole bag off and put it in the top. Or if you had like a normal unzippy backpack and stuff, it would have to sit vertically, like, you'd have to have like an extra bump and stuff, and just that little tiny bit makes an enormous difference. My only gripes with it is that the light meter is only okay. It's supposed to be like an evaluative meter, so it's supposed to take in the whole frame, but I feel like it really just kind of reads the highlight and goes off of this, so if you use it, I end up with a lot of underexposed photos. So for me, I generally only use the light meter kind of as just like a last check on what I think the frame should be. So either I'm going to use an external meter, or I'm going to take a photo with my other camera and then test it and stuff like this. And then I'm just kind of playing with that just to see if it agrees with me. And once I've done that once in a scene, I can kind of leave alone and not expect to need to change again. But it's just not the best meter I've ever worked with, so I don't use it a ton. That said, it is kind of nice just to have that in there just a little bit, so that while I'm taking a photo, and I always set the ISO to be about a stop overexposed. So you set it here by just like lifting and twisting this little thingy on the top of the box. It has these little red lights showing the shutter speeds on the side, and it tells you like what it thinks it should be. Or it's like, it's too high, you need to drop the aperture, or something like that. And so it's just nice to have that extra thing just to see if the camera agrees with what I'm doing, and just to be an extra point of reference. One other funny thing about these cameras, and this is the same both with this Mamiya or with my Mamiya RZ67, is that Mamiya has worked really hard to make sure you can't be a dummy and take a photo when you shouldn't. Now obviously I could screw things up and just like pop the back off of this right now, and that would ruin the roll. But other than that, there's nothing else I can do to this camera to take a photo when it's not ready to take a photo. So like, you can't take the lens off unless you close, there's this like internal shutter that you close, that it's designed there so that it closes, creates a curtain so that you can change the lens without doing it. This is a mirrorless leaf camera, so that means that the shutter is actually inside of the lens itself, not inside of the camera. So if I were to just take the lens off, theoretically it would just expose light straight onto the film itself. So you have to close that shutter to protect the film from that. But that also said, a lot of people encourage you to close that same shutter when you're changing film so that no dust falls into the back of the lens, which is a super good idea. It's not something I usually do bother with when I'm just changing rolls of 120 because I'm really fast at that. But if I am doing the panorama kit, because that takes a little bit longer to change film, that I do usually close it. The thing is, I never remember to release it. And so every single time I go out and I try to take a photo, I'm just like, why are you not doing this? What do you do? And then, of course, like, it clicks. And then the first thing in my brain is like, it's broken. The reality is, it's not broken. It's smarter than me. And it's the same thing with the RZ67. I've had so many times where I'm like, why can I not take a photo? And it's just like, because you left the dark side in, dummy. My only other little tiny gripe, and this is like super silly, is that I feel like the on-off switch is just like a little bit too hard to use, that's it. It's dumb. That's the only thing. But I absolutely love using the medium format. I love the one stroke. Every single time you take a photo, just and just using this camera is an absolute joy if you like square format photos. Well, I just made it into Nevada and immediately get greeted by a deserted gas station in new types of pine trees. So it very much feels like I hit a new state almost immediately. I am so excited to drive through this part of Nevada. It's a thing I've only just flown over, so the next 6 hours to 8 hours, however long it takes me, it's just all new territory, and I'm really so excited to... It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Decided to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to switch to black and white for one roll here with the Mamiya 6, just because I feel like this could be interesting stuff to make prints with, and though I can't make prints with the colors, it's just easier to do with the black and white. I think the textures are really fascinating around here. So once again, like last week, I'm now going to offer a print that goes with this week's video, and this week's is going to be this black and white one of the in the desert of Nevada, and I just really love the print. This is probably my favorite photo, and I think probably the best photo I took on this entire trip. And so it is available. It is going to be a square print, 8x10, just like this, and you can buy that at the link below for 15 bucks. And remember, all the proceeds go to Black Lives Matter. Nevada is the most open, empty place I've ever been. This little road like twice before I saw it, which makes me really excited about peace and quiet and serenity in the middle of this lake. It's gonna be awesome. Oh, this is ridiculous. So fun. Well, I'm going to spend, this is my last night of the trip. I'm spending it here in the Alvord Desert, which is a dry lake bed, as you can see. It's a place that was a little bit tricky to find, but I've wanted to come here for years. I saw it on somebody's Instagram like 5 or 6 years ago. It's always had a pin on my to-go-to map, so I'm really hoping for some epic stars tonight. Not a bad way to start the last day. I actually got to sleep outside last night and those stars were unreal. Like, it just felt like the Milky Way was just right there and you could just touch it. Just mind-blowing. Well, it's probably time to start packing up. But it's weird, like, I kind of feel like I'm on like the last day of camp. Like, I'm so excited to go home and see Erica and Lena, but it's also just weird because like I've thought about this trip for a while now, and these are places I've wanted to come to for years, and I've done it. I don't know when I'll get to travel again because, you know, COVID. But man, it's been great.